are here today to hear a little bit of a take on endurance from Michael Chapman, and you can read his full bio here on our Creative Mornings site, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of things for you today. We're really in for an insightful talk for our first time guest at Creative Mornings and on the stage, so we're super excited about that. But our next speaker is no stranger to the creative world. Michael Chapman is one of the Martin Agency's favorite boomerangs because he left and came back, but in the interim, he did a variety of cool things, where he went to UPS, Walmart, DoorDash, Intel, Heinz, and the ever-beloved Oreo. He holds titles such as Chief Strategy Officer, Chief Growth Officer, and has contributed to Martin's meteoric rise, even helping them earn the prestigious title of Adweek's Agency of the Year in 2020. He's a force to be reckoned with, and when he is not busy transforming the world of marketing, he's at home in Richmond with his amazing and patient wife, 3 human children, 3 furry, 4-legged children, and he basically is an epitome of endurance in every aspect of life. So we are really excited to give him a very warm welcome to come in and talk about endurance. So Michael, please come to the stage.
Oh, I don't need that. So that was, I swear to God, I didn't write that, and that's the last part, I think a force to be reckoned with, but I'm not sure about all that. But when I got asked to do this, I had zero idea of what was being asked of me. In fact, the person that asked was like, yeah, they were supposed to do a quick little talk to some people, and then we'll do it'll be fine, don't worry about it. And so today, I have been overwhelmed with the amount of creativity in this room, and you all deserve a big hand for yourselves for just being here, doing what you do, sticking with it. I'm super, super impressed. So welcome to the Martin Agency. This place holds I have been here multiple times over my career. So I left, and they keep taking me back. So it holds a very special place in my heart. And yes, it's because we do award-winning work. Yes, it's because we do big things in the world. But mostly it's because I get to come into this job every day and work with some of the most creative people I've ever met in my entire life. And every time I go out and think, wait, there's something else out there, I always realize, oh wait, there isn't. So it's a plug for the Martin Agency, but it's really a plug for creativity in general. And so when I was asked to do this talk, I was like, okay, Creative Mornings, it's interesting, it's fun. And then they go, the global theme of endurance. And I was like, shit. And if you go read what our friends in Romania wrote about it, it's pretty heavy. And so reacting to that, I did what I'm sure all of us would do, is go say, well, how am I gonna get into this topic into a way that will make sense and sort of bring some energy? So the first thing I did was like, yes, this is 24-hour Le Mans. This is, doing kettlebell training and waking up at 6 in the morning and craft, and we're gonna go out there and we gotta express our creativity every day, and we gotta write every morning, and then I realized I don't do any of that stuff. And as we were just saying, I don't do any weights and I don't do any training, so that would seem very disingenuous. So then I went and I looked at the other side of my brain, which is, I was a religious studies major, and I like philosophy and English. And so, of course, I looked into, well, what does endurance mean? And Virgil, how many people have read the Aeneid? Oh my God. Okay, that is definitely not what I expected. There were at least 10 hands that were raised. The Aeneid is an act of endurance. It is 1,000 or 10,000 lines of poetry. It takes 8.5 hours to read it. And in that, there is multiple suicides, multiple wars, a trip to Hades. It's a calamity in and of itself. So it's not surprising that when Virgil talked about endurance, he said, every calamity is to be overcome by endurance. Calamity. It doesn't feel like Creative Mornings to me. But it did beg the question, is creativity something that needs to be endured? And I'm sure we have all different responses to that. But I went to the true one source of light in my life, which is TikTok. And TikTok as you well know, has hours and hours of amazing content that can really shed light on any one topic. But for me, this is the meme that goes on in my head, and I've been sharing it recently, and I think it feels very, feels right to be sharing with you today, because this is sort of what I feel like when I walk, and I'm going to be clear about what kind of work I'm talking about. This is not me walking into the Martin Agency. This is me walking into, and all of us walking into creativity. So again, to all my Martin Agency people, this is not me walking into this job every day. This is the hard work of creativity. And let's be very, very clear. And I love the fact that we're all here together, because if I was doing this in a room of only accountants, only investment people, only finance people, only people that live in the world of only business, they might not get it. And in fact, when I talk to the CMOs and the leaders of the companies that we work with, and I've been doing this recently very pointedly, which is what is the one thing that really bothers them, and what are the barriers that they face in creativity in their business, is that often other people don't realize the value that creativity brings to a business. Often people put us in a hole of, one CMO said, dip it. Dip it means, can you take this idea that someone in sales came up with and make it look pretty? Is it something that engineering that did that you can make it look better or sound better? Can you make it pithy? And that does a huge disservice to all the work that the people in the creative services business do. And as a strategist, I will say I even have an easier job in creativity, because I get to come up with the idea before the idea. I get to sell theory. But for the people that have to sit and look at a blank page and come up with an idea that's going to go transform the world or change people's opinion, that's an extraordinary burden. And so I think it's important to realize that it is hard, and it does take endurance. I talk to the Virginia architects every year, and we talk about, are there any architects in the building? Any architects in here? You know why? They're a very cynical, moody bunch. This is a little too positive. They would never do a primal scream. But I love them because they sort of do the same thing that we do in advertising. And advertising is built on the fact that none of our ideas get to see the light of day if we don't convince someone that they're worth investing in. 90% of the work that we do, and 90% of the work that you do, are ideas that get thrown on the floor. They get either, put in the trash. The client comes along, or whoever's, sort of asks you for something and says, like, hey, that doesn't work. Oh, I don't like that color. Oh, wait, that doesn't match with what the brief said. Or, wait, that matches with the brief said. The brief must be wrong. So what other business where 90% of the work ends up on the ground? And then let's say 10%. At best, 10% of the great ideas in the world get put into the world. Then only 2-3% of those are the ones that we are the most proud of, that feel like they, give us, soul encouraging permission to keep going, that feel like they're making the impact that they're going to want to make. So it's important that we realize that this job is very difficult. But Mike Hughes is somebody who led this company for many years, and he said something that has really rung true for me for my entire career, right? So as I said, I've been here 3 times, we've left lots of times. So a long time ago, he said this to the agency, and he wrote it in a book that I'm going to share in a minute. And he said, you will only find joy in the work itself. It can't just come from success. At the end of the day, it must come from the work, not just from reaching the peak, but also from making the long, hard climb. It's not enough to wait for the win. It's not okay just to sort of be happy when something goes right, because as we all know, it goes wrong 90% of the time. The joy is in the work. The joy is in pushing that boulder up the hill, and guess what? Having it roll back down again. when I was younger, much younger, like 8th grade younger, I played football. And because everyone played football. I know they don't all do that now, but they used to always play football, and you didn't have to go to some UAE or whatever the travel teams. And I was the same size, okay, but thinner and scrawnier, and I was really big for my grade. So, and I used to start in 8th grade, and I would get up, and they would put me down in offensive tackle positions, and then they would put me at defensive end. And I started, and we won, and I hated it. I hated every minute of it. I hated practice. I hated playing. I hated all of it. But then, later on, I picked up lacrosse. And I was horrible at lacrosse because I was the same size, and I had no weight, and I couldn't bump anybody around. But I loved the practices. And I loved getting out and onto the field. I loved throwing with other people. I loved going, and I didn't play in any of the games, not until my senior year, and then I only played for half the season, and then some freshman came along, was better than I was, and got me kicked out. Point being, you will know where you're supposed to be when you find out if you love the practice, if you love the work. So, it may seem simple, but there's a very easy point that helps me keep focused, and it was one that helped Mike keep focused, which is just choose joy. And choosing joy seems like an easy thing, but Mike had an interesting story. He was a president and creative director here, and he was diagnosed with lung cancer. And most people die within 5 years of being diagnosed with lung cancer. Mike had lung cancer, and he was a lifetime non-smoker, and he lived for 18 years with lung cancer. But he was asked in the middle of it, how would you like to spend the last part of your days? What do you want to do? He didn't know they were going to last for 18 years. But he was asked the question, how do you find balance in your life? And for him, this was, and I think it's a good way to think about it, he said, how do I find balance in my personal life, or how do I balance my personal life and my work life? And he said, now for me, it's easy to see that question is wrong. It's immaterial. It reduces a big question to a silly scale. How many hours for this? How many hours for that? Because balance is not what I seek in life. Joy is what I seek in life. Messy, unbalanced, unpredictable joy. So the first key, I think the first key to realizing that endurance is not just about craft, it's not just about practice, it's not just about exercising what we do every single day to make sure that we don't lose it. It is about remembering that this is a hard world that we live in, the creative world. And it requires us to maintain a level of optimism. It requires us to search out and find joy. It's not enough to wait for joy to happen. I think you got to go out and reach out for it and happen as much as you can. So that's sort of the first big point, is that joy really is the key to endurance. It's not something that you just choose once. It's not something that you linearly get to. And I think in the world of creative services, and quite frankly in the world of any business or progression or journey, sometimes we say, oh, I want to be X. I want to be a creative director. I want to be the next principal at my own consulting firm. I want to make Art 180 be the most amazing nonprofit in the world, which it is. And that can feel very much like, let me think about the steps that will take me there one after another. And I think for me, that is the wrong way of thinking about it. More importantly, you've got to look for opportunities that multiply the joy in your life, that allow you to open up new opportunities, because new opportunities give you more choices as you go through the world. So instead of thinking about, I'm going to go from one step to a next step, what about if I went from one step to 5 possibilities? And then I take one of those possibilities and I multiply joy even more, and then I find more. And so, like any good modern marketer, I went to ChatGPT, and I put in my story, and I also put in some pictures to make sure that you got the full ChatGPT experience. And this is what it said. What? This is the picture from the bio that she read. So this is what ChatGPT said. So when I put in my story and I talked about joy and I sort of gave it some things, It said, your story is about how every time you move forward in life, it increased your opportunities. Instead of moving methodically towards one goal, you have created many futures to follow. It sounds like you have a strong belief in the power of progress and the potential for multiple paths of success. This theme of creating multiple futures could be woven throughout your story as you reflect on different moments in your life, where you took a step forward and the doors that opened as a result. It was 100% right. To be fair, you really have to tell it these days kind of what you're doing and what you want to say. But they articulated it in a way that I was like, hell yeah, this is right, and ChatGPT agrees. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about my journey and where I've been. Now, there was a lot of joy had here in the UVA Jackson Hole era, but that wasn't necessarily a purposeful joy. That was just sort of a rampant, expansive joy that had no real redeeming value other than I made it through those years. But from then on, I really have made choices that I felt like have expanded my joy and expanded the possibilities of what I could do as a result. So going to the brand center might seem like an obvious job for somebody who wants, or obviously action for somebody who wants to get a role in advertising and communications. But the VCU Brand Center has a marketing degree on top. So you actually get a degree from VCU in the marketing group, and it comes out of so you get an actual degree. Many other schools at the time, the Portfolio Center, Miami Ad School, they're just about creativity. So the choice for me was, wait, I'm gonna go to a place where I can learn all this stuff, do all these things, and multiply my opportunity. So then, of course, I looked for all the great jobs in the world and found the best one in my own backyard at Martin. But London was another amazing place, right? I knew I had been here for 3 years. And this is sort of the story of restlessness and looking for joy. You know, every 3 or 5 years, I get a little restless. But I wanted to go somewhere where I could learn a little bit about international business and expand my purview and understand what the world is all about. And so I went to London, and that wasn't easy. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know what I was doing. I was young in my career, so I was a little arrogant. Much as you know, as you get older, you get more humble. But I went there, and all of a sudden I could, come back. I could work at any agency I wanted to. I could have worked in different parts of the world. We talked about going to Singapore, but we came back to the place that I knew where creativity lives. And then I wanted to learn a little bit more about the language of business. And going to business school was a huge transformation for me because it said and when I went, it wasn't because I wanted to check a box. It was because I wanted to go and speak the language of business. That allowed me to talk better to my clients. It allowed me to do things like become a CMO. It's allowed me to now flex into this role as chief client officer, and it's helped me be able to run this agency, along with the rest of the executive committee, and make sure that we're doing it in a way that fuels creativity over time. I'm not going to get too much into the rest of it because I know we're running a little bit short on time. But I will say there are 2 parts of this that are really important. One is, or I should say one part that's very important in 2 different ways. It is not something that you need to be doing by yourself. In fact, I would say it can't be done by yourself. All of these steps, and certainly as I got further in my career, were harder and harder to take, and they had more fear associated with them. And I would just be very clear, I wouldn't have made any of these changes without my wife, right? So my wife is someone who, from the beginning, helped me get into the brand center, and then has been along this journey with me the whole entire time. She knows better than I do where I can find joy. She knows better than I do to take a risk maybe when I'm feeling a little bit more safe. The other side of that, so not just your family or your friends or your partners or this great community, lean on them, is there have been people in my life that have said, you can do it. That have seen something in me that said, wait a second, you're more than you think. You're more than you allow yourself to think. You need to indulge that and go and figure it out. So cultivating that world around you is super, super important. And it doesn't just happen by happenstance. If you're in this world of finding joy, then people are going to come to you, and they're going to support you, and they're going to find your light, and then they're going to want to share it with the world and multiply your joy. Now, because of that, and I think this is important, I also put other parts of my story into ChatGPT. And I think this is the reality, and I think it's always helpful to remind you and remind each other that this is a messy way to maybe endure. And with that messiness comes a lot of self-doubt. And it doesn't matter where you are in your career. It doesn't matter what project you're on. It doesn't matter how successful your resume might say, I still feel every single day a very big sense of doubt. You know, you question your decisions, you wonder if you're on the right path, you may even doubt your own abilities and wonder if you're truly capable of achieving your goals. There's not a day that goes by that I don't question that. I think joy is a shield. I think when you indulge it and seek it out, it becomes something that makes you realize that, yeah, I can be scared, but I can still know that in the long run, this is going to be a positive impact on my life. And instead of closing down opportunities, it opens up opportunities. So I wanted to sort of end with a few things. Like, so where am I finding joy today? I've already said it earlier, but I'll say it again. This place is not just an agency, it's not just a business. It is a group of creative people that come together every day and challenge each other to do things that have never been done before. You know, find that joy every day. Alana Strauss is in charge of our entertainment division. She worked at Netflix, and she worked at Fender, and she worked at Fox, and she's heading up a new division for us that's going to help us get into and behind the velvet, rope of Hollywood. She does not need me in her meetings. She didn't ask for me to be in her meetings, but I show up to every single one because she's talking to Disney and Netflix and Fox and Paramount. And for me, the world of entertainment is all of a sudden this new world in which I've never been exposed to. And now I get to see what it's all about and challenge myself every day to think maybe differently about creativity and maybe help the agency think differently about creativity. The Brand Center. Who are Brand Center alumni or Brand Center? There they are. Oh, look who it is. It's the traveling nomads back from God knows where. Rich in life. So those are two of my, from I don't know how long ago, a long time ago, fellow classmates at the VCU Brand Center. And I'm very lucky to go back to the VCU Brand Center and work with another one of our classmates and teach students about the role of creativity in advertising. And that's really a reverse mentorship, right? Where I get to go and help them, but what I'm really doing is learning from them every single day about how the world is changing. I was talking to some people earlier about how the world has changed so much. The world has changed. How we do things might be different, but why we do them is sort of core. So that's an amazing place. And of course, one of the best stories I have going right now is the fact that 20 years ago, I was on the board of Art 180. If you don't know Art 180, please go check it out. It's an amazing community collective of artists and young people and residents and just a community of people who are trying to show the power of creativity and what it can do in the world and how it can transform communities from the inside out. And so there's a ton of work that they've done over the years. It is an organization that has changed a lot since I was there. But a lot of the people that started it are here, and a lot of the people that have been involved with it are here, and I couldn't be happier to be back involved. So as a parting thought, I just want to make sure that, endurance are all those things. This is hard. But as Jordan Vakos told me, the best path to endurance is allowing yourself to find joy. So I invite you to sort of find comfort in that, find strength in that, find power in that, and use it as a compass point as you continue through this journey. Will you stay up here? Or?
We do have time. We have time for some questions. I also have this microphone box that is padded, and I'm dying to throw it.
That's creative.
Who's ready to catch? Jolinda, I'm going to throw it at you. Do you think I can do it?
Yeah.
All right, everybody duck over there. All right.
It's really light.
All right.
So, okay, you can hear me. Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to talk straight into it. So, Michael, thank you. I have a question from kind of the agency owner hat. When you run into clients that maybe are overvaluing their business input and undervaluing the partnership of the creative side of things.
You're being very polite. Yes, I like it.
So, I don't know who's in the room. So how do you navigate, or do you have to, I'm just open to any of your thoughts around this. Do you just turn it down when you feel like it's a lost cause, it's going to constantly be a fighting battle to get the creativity at the table or to be respected, or are there ways that you bring people around when you sense that they're gonna not listen or not value what your creative team might bring?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very specific business question, which I'm happy to answer. We have a very tight definition of what we do in the world, which you can see back there is fight invisibility, and that's Mike Hughes in the center. And so everything that we do and every partnership we have has to have an element that the client itself or the partner itself wants to stand above the parapet, get out there and get talked about. Because we know that the brands that get talked about grow faster than the brands that don't get talked about. So from the very beginning, we make it very clear that that's what we are here to do. I was just having a conversation yesterday with a potential client. Lovely people, amazing opportunity, but they really were talking about refresh, and they were talking about nudging and ooching, and they were talking about don't call it a rebrand. You know, the CEO is a little bit more of a founder. So that to me was like, hey, I love what you're doing, and if I was by myself, I might say I want to do this all day long. But this agency and what we do in the world is create impact. You know, we create cultural impact where buzz becomes an essential part of a business plan, and that's not what you guys want. So that's the first step. There are many clients that just need to maybe have their hand held a little bit. And so when you talk to them, if they're skittish or nervous, that's different than being adamantly opposed. And I think that's that's where you have to find the netting or the sifting of who you work with. If people don't believe in the power of creativity and you believe in the power of creativity, it's not going to work.
All right, who's next? Who's Jill into throwing this to? And then we'll get it back there after.
You can also use
Hello, speaking. Okay, great.
Yes, hi.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Really enjoyed it. We live in an era right now where all of our joy is quantified in the way that when I go out with my family and we're having a good time, I take a picture and I put it on Instagram, and then that picture gets a certain amount of likes, comments, etc. And I think personally I really struggle with that, just knowing that like I'm putting my joy out there, I'm putting the things that I do out there, and then I'm getting a rating based on how many likes I get, right? So how do you navigate around that or incorporate that into your strategy, into your philosophies?
Yeah.
You know, how do you work around that?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I'm not a digital native. So I don't probably feel the same pressure that you do to have my joy quantified. But let me be very clear. I've struggled with this my whole life. I mean, passion, like I've always wondered, like, why am I not more passionate about something, right? And that's where when I find those things that I'm passionate about, like it is so enriching to me. And I'm not sure, because I searched so hard to find things that, like, it took me a long time to realize, by the way, I'm really passionate about advertising. Like, I fucking love this business. And I, keep going out because I'm like, are you supposed to? Because everybody says that it's no good. If you can look at the ratings of like salespeople and like used car salesmen, and then you get down to this, like we are at the bottom of the barrel. But guess what? I love it. And I'm proud to say it. So we have to, so I guess the point is, for me, the search is so real and so hard, and I have to reinforce it all the time, that I'm not sure even if I put it out there and people shat on it, that I wouldn't need it. So I guess maybe the things that we're looking at that are Instagrammable maybe aren't giving us as much joy as we maybe need, and that we need to still keep going. And I think it's okay to share. Of course you should share stuff and show people what you're doing and what you care about and bring more people in. But you also got to find places, I think, for yourself that really feed your soul, whether or not other people value it, or not. I don't know if that's helpful. It seems kind of corny, but to me, it's true. Yeah.
It's
a long throw.
Hi, thank you, Michael. My name is Katrina. I work with Mosaic. One of the things that you stated that stood out for me was take risk when you feel safe.
Yes.
How do you do that in a business that has been around for a long time? Like, they get comfortable. How do
Yes.
you shake up that risk?
You mean
what are
the
some
fact that we've been
steps?
here for about 60 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
Some steps to do that.
Steps to do that. Well, one of the things that we do a lot here is that we don't let people get very comfortable in their position, right? So as you heard, besides the transforming, powerful businesses and macro dynamic, whatever, is that I've had lots of titles. So one of the things that Kristen Cavallo, who's the CEO of the Martin Agency, has really instilled in everyone is this idea of flexibility and realizing that your job title doesn't really have to, doesn't reflect all the things that you're capable of. So Danny Robinson has a business degree. He's the chief creative officer. He was the chief client officer for a while. I've been the chief strategy officer, the chief growth officer, and now I'm the chief client officer. We're constantly shifting people around. Taylor Grimes, who's in charge of our new business, was actually a comms planner. So everybody is put into different roles that allow them to feel a little bit of that fear, which I think is a good thing. I mean, you get anxious and you want to do great things, but with a little bit of a safety net to realize that, hey, we know you're in a new spot, but give it your all, be passionate. So I think that is definitely one of the key things, is just keep people moving around. Don't let your past job titles define what you're capable of in the future, and invest in people's sort of opportunities as opposed to what they're, we often say promotions or changes come as a result of you doing the job that you did. I think here we're a little bit more like, hey, we're into the value that you could bring, not the value that you do bring. We know what you can do. What are you capable of? And investing in that and making sure that people feel that when they come through the door. So that's one simple thing. Question in the back?
Hey, Michael, thank you for being here and letting us be here.
Yeah.
One question I had is, describe your role as a chief client officer and what that entails. I'm fascinated by that title. So.
Yeah, so it's broad. I would say that in general, my job is to ensure that I'm helping like when you asked the question about when clients, maybe don't value the role of creativity. I am on the forefront of working with our clients at the highest levels to clear the path and make sure the value of creativity is known and helping them make sure that the organizations that they represent understand the value of creativity, that open the doors for the team and the agency to do even more creative work in the world. And it's not selfish, because it's not about what we can create. It's that if they really want to make an impact in the world, if our clients want to be the ones that are talked about, if they want to be the iconic brands that we know they can be, they're going to have to open their aperture. And that's not just a CMO's job. It's not, the marketing people don't always have the power that we'd love them to have. More and more, when you have chief experience officers and the role of marketing is now, I think, becoming more and more powerful through data, I have to work with those people to make sure that the organization understands the power that open up new revenue, or I should say new funding streams internally, new revenue streams for our clients, and new creative opportunities for the brand. Yeah.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having us in your home this morning.
My pleasure.
And it's been a great talk. I was a little concerned, and I'm not an architect, even though I might sound a little cynical, but just to clarify. So you were talking about joy, and I thought, oh God, here it comes. Because as a hiring manager, and so many times we have people coming into the organization and they say, well, I'm here to find my joy, and if they don't find it within the first 18 months, I'm gone.
Yeah.
I was really pleased to see you talking about finding the joy in the work as opposed to the result, and how important that is, and how do you instill that in your freshman class, if you will, coming into the Martin Agency?
Yeah, that's a great question. I grew up here, so it's sort of ingrained in who I am, and this book is pretty amazing. It's a little book that we give out. It's called Welcome to Our Beautifully Imperfect Little Company. And I didn't mention it, but the other side of finding joy in the work is, he writes, are you going to be one of the bitchers or the complainers, the people that sort of point out problems without solutions? So I hope that what we do is that we remind people why they're here. We remind people that there's joy in the work, and we maybe remind people that, like, as a member of this creative community, you have to come with solutions. You have to come with, where are we headed? You are a part of, yes, we have titles, but the hierarchy is very low here. We do not have a lot of hierarchy. The reason I come back here again and again is because it's an entrepreneurial environment where if you have a good idea, there's a lot of yeses to go around. But there's also a lot of accountability and a lot of, you can make it whatever you want it to be, as long as you put in the hard work and the passion and the thing that makes it happen. But I know we can do better, and I know that the world is changed, and I know that it's a struggle. We're all sort of figuring out in a new, there's so many generations right now, that are making an impact in business. The idea of junior is not really true, because the world has changed so much that we have to lean on our youngest people in the organization, and they need to lean on us. So how do you operate in that world is an ongoing question. But we're constantly, trying new things. Last question. Cardio.
Thank you for that really fantastic talk. I think it was timely for me personally. So I'm a one-person founder, and I would like to say that it's all so smooth. It's not. And I do love the work, I will say that, but I also struggle with a lot of self-doubt. And of course, being a one-person founder, you don't have a team around you being like, no, you're fine, you're good, although you can tell me on my way out.
You're great, like. You're doing awesome.
Even if it was forced, I really appreciate it.
You have endured.
Yes, sir, I have. But what I wanted to ask you is how you go from self-doubt and the more difficult emotions that go with doing work, especially work that is different, to joy. Like, how do you bring the joy back in, or what is, I understand that joy is the antidote, but how do you actually manifest
Cultivate it, manifest it? Well, me personally, it's taken me a long time to, and I'm going to say this, and I hope people in the organization who know me agree, but it's taken me a long time to realize that one of my values that I bring is a little bit of balance and a little bit of levity. It's not stupid levity, but it is, I'm not a dumb person, but we get so tied up in the business of advertising. We get so tied up in what's in this for me, or what's in this for the company, or what's a client versus agency, or creative versus strategy versus account, and and it's just like, it's a lot, and it's an ongoing struggle. And so at any given time when the tension is so high, being able to remind ourselves that we are not curing cancer, we're not doing the most amazing thing. We are funding a life of creativity, and making people think differently based on the work that we do every single day. And so I do a lot of that. Whether it's internally here or internally up in with the squirrels up in here, or the hamsters, and remind myself that it's just not that big of a deal. And you know what's hard, and I know this is hard, and I haven't done it myself, but you're doing what you're doing now, and you're going to start saying, wait, I'm failing, and you don't know that something else is coming. But I really believe if you tap into what makes you happy, and you get that magnetism, that you will find the next thing, and you will find the thing that brings you joy and money. And I don't think those things have to be mutually exclusive. And I'm not being naive here. I don't want you to think this is like a Pollyanna talk. I just think it's a good reminder that in this hard business, just grinding to get to endurance, endurance is such a rough word, because you're like, I'm just trying to get through. And so I think you just got to find those pockets that are like, oh wait, this is why I do this. Oh wait, this, a simple client interaction. Hell, when I write a good brief, even at this stage of my life, I'm like, this is a good brief. This is a good strategy. You got to find joy in those little things, and hopefully they'll sustain you until you find some money to actually afford to do all those things. I don't know if that helps, but.
Beautiful. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.